Today on the Commanders Report, I'm going to be giving you guys my final record prediction for the Washington Commanders here during the 2024 season. Last year, I believe I predicted the Commanders were going to win 8 games. I was told that was too many, and then they ended up winning 4. All right, so I'm going to try to be a little bit more accurate this year. Hopefully, it's not too low or too high. Hopefully, we get it just right this year, and I guess we'll see where things end up. All right, but predict it for me down there in the comments section. What will be the Commanders' final record this season? Let me know down there in the comments section. Predict it for me. Put your money where your mouth is right now, and let me know what will be the final Commanders record this season. So let's start with Week 1 against the Buccaneers, and we actually have our preview for Week 1 against the Buccaneers on the channel. It was released yesterday, so if you want to see a full in-depth of why I think the Buccaneers will take the victory at home against the Commanders in Week 1, think that game could go either way. If Jayden Daniels balls out, we could be looking at a 1-0 start for the Commanders, but I do think because the Buccaneers, they're the playoff team, they have an established culture, a quarterback that's not in his first year in a new system, I think the Buccaneers at home get a close victory in Week 1. But then we get to Week 2, and I think that the Commanders get the W against the Giants, all right? I think the Giants' offensive line stinks. I think that the Daniel Jones stinks. I don't think he can handle pressure. I think Dan Quinn and Joe Witt Jr. are going to have him seeing ghosts all night long, and I think that the Commanders walk away with a nice victory to get back to 500. But then we get to Monday Night Football against the Bengals in Week 3, and it will be a loss. The Bengals obviously have one of the best quarterbacks in football in Joe Burrow. They have an awesome wide receiver room. I'm hoping to see Jayden Daniels make that a bit of a game because the Bengals defense isn't very good. So I'm hoping to see a high-scoring game. Take the over in that football game, by the way, is probably my advice. But at the end of the day, Joe Burrow is Joe Burrow. That team is definitely established as we sit here today. So personally, I'm going to go with the Bengals. Then we got the Cardinals here in Week 4. And I actually think the Cardinals have one of the most underrated offenses in the game. Kyler Murray, I think, is somebody that's severely underrated as a quarterback. He is limited because he can't see over the middle of the field as well as he would like to. But now he's got 2 really nice weapons in Marvin Harrison Jr. and Michael Wilson on the exterior. Plus, he's got Trey McBride, one of the best tight ends in football, in my opinion. He was unbelievable to finish last season. Plus, James Conner is one of the best running backs in football as well. So the fact that you're on the road in that game, I think Jonathan Gannon has done a pretty decent job with that team to this point. That feels like a loss to me in Week 4 as well. Then we get to Week 5 against the Browns, another loss. The Browns' defense and their pass rush, I think, is just going to absolutely eat up the Commanders' offensive line, which still has some holes on it, if we're being honest. Myles Garrett is going to be going up against probably Brandon Coleman, a rookie with a lot of issues, in my opinion, still. And I think that's going to be an absolute bloodbath defensively for the Browns, and the Commanders will take their 3rd straight loss. And I think we all expect, on the road against the former number 1 seed in the AFC, as long as Lamar Jackson is healthy and the Ravens aren't completely destroyed with injuries, I think we pretty much expect the Ravens to come away with the victory there. And, after this start, all right, I understand why people are probably going to say, Jack, you think that this team is going to be terrible this year because 1-5 is not the record that you want to see your team get at the beginning of a season, plain and simply. And I understand that. All right, but you have to realize here there are some pretty tough opponents. I think the Ravens, the Cardinals, and the Browns, that 3-game stretch is going to be really tough. Plus, you got the Bengals on the road on Monday Night Football. You got some really tough games at the beginning of this season. And with Jayden Daniels looking to get his feet wet and Dan Quinn still establishing his culture and his scheme and all that stuff like that, I think it might be a bit of a slow start for the Commanders here in 2024. However, I do think that things are going to get better, all right? And we'll get to the rest of the schedule here in just a second. But before I reveal the rest of today's schedule prediction and record prediction for the Commanders, I want to have a word from our sponsor here at Prize Picks, which is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. And unlike other apps on Prize Picks, it's just you against the numbers. All you have to do is pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections and then watch the winnings roll in. Get in on the daily action with your friends and become a part of the Prize Picks community today. One Caleb Williams passing yard gets you 1 win on Prize Picks every week in the month of September. That's right, only 1 yard from Caleb Williams gets you an automatic win every football weekend in September. That means 4 weeks of free W's. Don't miss this deal on Prize Picks because it's gonna be gone the second September ends. Also, Prize Picks puts their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When my picks hit, I can get my money in as quick as 15 minutes. So let's take a look at my projection for week 1 for me personally. I'm going to take the more on passing yards for Caleb Williams, right? You see the 0.5 there. That's pretty much an automatic win, all right? Unless he gets hurt on the first play of the game and it's an incompletion, that's going to hit. Okay, then we get the more on Tyreek Hill. I mean, this guy's absolutely unbelievable. He's going to get more than 100 yards, right? Then we're going to get the more on the rushing yards for James Conner. Like I said before, I think James Conner is one of the more underrated running backs in football, so I think he's going to get more than the 53.5 he has slated on Prize Picks right now. You can get your picks in right now and make some money with our friends at Prize Picks. That is if you know ball. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code CLNS on Prize Picks to get $50 instantly when you only play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks, run your game. Get to week 7 versus the Panthers, and you go up against Dave Canales in the Panthers. I think you're going to get the win there. I think that might be a tougher game than some people are expecting. I think Bryce Young, still has a bright future in this league despite having an awful season last year. I still think he's very talented, but I also think Jayden Daniels is very talented. These are 2 rebuilding teams. I think, a desperate Washington Commanders team at this point gets the job done at home. But then I think the Bears are going to be pretty darn good as well. It's going to be a matchup between the number 1 and number 2 quarterbacks drafted in this year's NFL draft. And unfortunately, I do think Caleb Williams comes in and gets the W. I just think that the supporting cast there in Chicago is a lot better than what Jayden has to work with here in Washington, at least right now. But then I do think the Commanders secure the season sweep against the New York Giants. Like I said, I think that this is a beautiful matchup for the Washington Commanders because they can get simulated pressure on Daniel Jones, and history has shown if a defense is able to do that, he's not very good at playing quarterback in the National Football League. So I think that the Commanders are perfectly suited to absolutely dominate the Giants this year. I have them winning both games. But then, at home against the Steelers, you talk about a team with a good pass rush. They got T.J. Watt, Alex Highsmith, Cam Hayward, Keanu Benson, and they like to blitz their linebackers. That's going to be a tough week for this offensive line, in my opinion. I think the Steelers get the victory in Washington. Then we get to week 11 here. I'm going to have them take a loss at Philadelphia. Tough place to play, especially for a rookie. Dealing with that Philly crowd for the first time. It might be cold as well, so I'm going to go with the Eagles to take the W there. But then in Week 12 versus the Cowgirls, have them take a win here. Very good win there against a team that's probably going to make the playoffs in the Dallas Cowboys, former division champions. Getting that win at home, I think, is going to spark a lot of confidence, and they're going to take that confidence and get another big win against the Tennessee Titans in Week 13, in my opinion. Whether it's Mason Rudolph, whether it's Will Levis, I'm just not sure if the Tennessee Titans are going to be any good at that point in the year. So I will take the Commanders to take that one with a W. Week 14 is your bye, so we'll go to Week 15 against the Saints. 3rd straight win. Going to the Superdome and taking down Derek Carr, Spencer Rattler, whoever the hell it is in Week 15. I have a good feeling about that football game. Jayden Daniels has this team rolling to finish the season as we speak. And then, boom, get that win against the Philadelphia Eagles at home. This team always plays the Eagles hard, I feel like. And now with Dan Quinn here at home, Jayden Daniels has seen that defense once already. I think they shock the world here and they pull off the upset in Week 16. But then you get to the Falcons in Week 17, and boom, another win. 5th straight win for the Washington Commanders here down the home stretch as they look to try to maybe even squeak into the playoffs. I think the Falcons coming into Washington that late in the season, warm weather team, plays in a dome usually. They're going to have to play outside, potentially in the elements. I think that's going to be a great Jayden Daniels game there in Week 17. And now before I reveal who I think the Commanders who will win that Week 18 matchup against the Cowboys, make sure you guys click that subscribe button for daily Commanders content here on the channel. Daily Commanders videos, all 100% free. Breaking news coverage whenever there's a trade, a big signing, whatever the case may be. Weekly live shows, including a live watch party for every single Commanders game. And we got over 17,000 people already subscribed. So help us out right now. Click that subscribe button and join our family. Unfortunately, though, on the road in Dallas, playoffs potentially on the line, I do think the Commanders take a loss to Dallas. I mean, the Cowboys are just a lot better at home than they are on the road. We know that. So I'll take the season split with the Cowgirls here, and that will be the end of the Washington Commanders season. But hey, man, you finished with 5 wins in your final 6 games and a 5-game winning streak starting from week 12 all the way to week 16. I think that this is certainly something where the Commanders are going to feel pretty darn good about themselves heading into 2025. So don't jinx it. Let me know down there in the comments section. Like the video to help the Commanders make the playoffs this year. Let me know what you guys are thinking down there in the comments section, and also like the video if you want the Commanders to make the playoffs. So we take a look at the record prediction here officially. It's 8-9. Okay, and that might seem low to some people out there. I remember last year when I projected 8-9 and I brought up some of the concerns with Sam Howell and the offensive line and some of the other things that were happening in Washington. I was told that, you're just overreacting. The offensive line is going to be great. Sam Howell's going to be awesome. All these things. You're just being a hater. But this year's 8-9 feels a lot better than last year's 8-9 projection. And the reason for that is because I think Jayden Daniels and this football team is going to show a lot of good things down the stretch. And I think heading into year 2 of this Dan Quinn and Jayden Daniels era of Washington football, we're going to be able to look at this year as a foundational year on this team's road to potentially becoming a dynasty in the National Football League, competing for championships, year in and year out with a superstar quarterback in Jayden Daniels, and I'm very excited to see what's going to happen this year. And by the way, guys, winning 5 of your last 6 games is extremely, extremely good, all right? So that is definitely something that you want to see. You would rather finish the season hot than start the season hot and then completely crumble at the end of the year, right? So you want to see this team consistently get better throughout the entire season. You want to see them be competitive throughout the year, even if they're not winning football games. And then you want to see some promise from Jayden Daniels, from the offense at large, from this defense that I have some expectations for this year, all right? So I do want to see some promise in the second half of the year. As long as that happens, I'm going to feel very, very good with where this team sits heading into 2025, and that is why I'm cool with 8-9. I just think that this year, you have some holes still on the offensive line, in the cornerback room. This is not a complete football team, all right? And right now the Commanders are saving cap space. They're trying to get to a point where they're going to have a lot of cap space next offseason. They're trying to get to a point where they're going to have a lot of draft capital so that in 2025, year 2 of Jayden Daniels and Dan Quinn, this team can finally get back to competing for championships in the National Football League. So for me personally, guys, I think the ceiling of this football team is 10-7. And the playoffs, I think they could maybe sneak into the playoffs at the best case scenario. But that's going to require Jayden Daniels to be special, for a lot of these question marks on the offensive line to get answered in a positive way. Same thing with the cornerback room. Just the way that I'm feeling about this roster right now, I feel like 10-7 is probably the ceiling. Then the floor is 5-12, all right? And, that wouldn't be ideal. That's just one more win than what you had last year. But remember, sometimes these things take time. Dan Campbell had barely any wins his first year in Detroit, his first 2 years for that matter, and now look where they are. They were a good half away from going to the Super Bowl and beating the San Francisco 49ers, and now the expectation in Detroit is that they should win the Super Bowl this year. I think if we're patient here in Washington, Dan Quinn and Jayden Daniels are going to get this team exactly to that point. So what say you guys? Let me know down there in the comments section. Will the Commanders make the playoffs here in 2024? Personally, I think they're going to come short. I think that they're probably still a year away. But let me know what you guys think down there in the comments section. Yes or no, will the Commanders make the playoffs? And make sure you guys click that subscribe button if you haven't already. We have videos like this every single day here on the Commanders Report. So to never miss any of them, make sure you click that subscribe button and join our team today.